Episode 118. But not one of the spells he had practiced had been designed to combat a sudden reversal of ground and sky. Did he dare move his foot? He could hear the blood pounding in his ears. He had two choices: try and move, or send up red sparks and get rescued and disqualified from the task. He shut his eyes so he wouldn't be able to see the view of endless space below him, and pulled his right foot as hard as he could away from the grassy ceiling. Immediately, the world righted itself. Harry fell forwards onto his knees on the wonderfully solid ground. He felt temporarily limp with shock. He took a deep, steadying breath, then got up again and hurried forwards, looking back over his shoulder as he ran out of the golden mist, which twinkled innocently at him in the moonlight. He paused at a junction of two paths and looked around for some sign of Fleur. He was sure it had been she who had screamed. What had she met? Was she all right? There was no sign of red sparks. Did that mean she'd gotten herself out of trouble, or was she in such trouble that she couldn't reach her wand? Harry took the right fork with a feeling of increasing unease, but at the same time he couldn't help thinking, one champion down. The cup was somewhere close by, and it sounded as though Fleur was no longer in the running. He'd got this far, hadn't he? What if he actually managed to win? Fleetingly, and for the first time since he'd found himself champion, he saw again that image of himself raising the Triwizard Cup in front of the rest of the school. He meant nothing for 10 minutes except dead ends. Twice he took the same wrong turning. Finally, he found a new route and started to jog along it in his wand light, waving, making his shadow flicker and distort on the hedge walls. Then he rounded another corner and found himself facing a blast-ended Scroot. Cedric was right. It was enormous. 10 feet long. It looked more like a giant scorpion than anything. Its long sting was curled over its back. Its thick armor glinted in the light from Harry's wand, which he pointed at it. Stupefy! The spell hit the Scroot's armor and rebounded. Harry ducked just in time, but could smell burning hair. It had singed the top of his head. The Scroot issued a blast of fire from its end and flew forward toward him. "Impedimenta!" Harry yelled. The spell hit the Scroot's armor again and ricocheted off. Harry staggered back a few paces and fell over. "Impedimenta!" The Scroot was inches from him when it froze. He had managed to hit it in the fleshy, shell-less underside. Panting, Harry pushed himself away from it and ran hard in the opposite direction. The impediment jinx was not permanent. The Scroot would be regaining the use of its legs at any moment. He took a left path and hit a dead end, a right and hit another. Forcing himself to stop, heart hammering, he performed the 4-point spell again, backtracked, and chose a path that would take him northwest. He'd been hurrying along the new path for a few minutes when he heard something in the path running parallel to his own, which made him stop dead. "What are you doing?" yelled Cedric's voice. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And then Harry heard Crumb's voice. "Crescio!" The air was suddenly full of Cedric's yells. Horrified, Harry began sprinting up his path, trying to find a way into Cedric's. When none appeared, he tried the Reductor curse again. It wasn't very effective, but it burnt a small hole in the hedge, through which Harry forced his leg, kicking at the thick brambles and branches until they broke and made an opening. He struggled through it, tearing his robes, and, looking to his right, saw Cedric jerking and twitching on the ground, Crumb standing over him. Harry pulled himself up and pointed his wand at Crumb just as Crumb looked up. Crumb turned and began to run. "Stupefy!" Harry yelled. The spell hit Crumb in the back. He stopped dead in his tracks, fell forward, and lay motionless, face down in the grass. Harry dashed over to Cedric, who had stopped twitching and was lying there panting, his hands over his face. "Are you all right?" Harry said roughly, grabbing Cedric's arm. "Yeah," panted Cedric. "Yeah, I don't believe it. He crept up behind me. I heard him. I turned around and he had his wand on me." Cedric got up. He was still shaking. He and Harry looked down at Crumb. "I can't believe this." "I thought he was all right," Harry said, staring at Crumb. "So did I," said Cedric. "Did you hear Fleur scream earlier?" said Harry. "Yeah," said Cedric. "You don't think Crumb got her too?" "I don't know," said Harry slowly. "Should we leave him here?" Cedric muttered. "No," said Harry. "I reckon we should send up red sparks. Someone'll come and collect him. Otherwise he'll probably be eaten by a scroot." "He'd deserve it," Cedric muttered, but all the same, he raised his wand and shot a shower of red sparks into the air, which hovered high above Crumb, marking the spot where he lay. Harry and Cedric stood there in the darkness for a moment, looking around them. Then Cedric said, "Well, I suppose we better go on." "What?" said Harry. "Oh, yeah, right." It was an odd moment. He and Cedric had been briefly united against Crumb. Now the fact that they were opponents came back to them both. They proceeded up the dark path without speaking. Then Harry turned left, Cedric right, and Cedric's footsteps soon died away. Harry moved on, continuing to use the 4-point spell, making sure he was moving in the right direction. It was between him and Cedric now. His desire to reach the cup first was now burning stronger than ever, but he could hardly believe what he'd just seen Crumb do. The use of an unforgivable curse on a fellow human being meant a life term in Azkaban. That was what Moody had told them. Crumb surely couldn't have wanted the Triwizard Cup that badly. Harry sped up. Every so often he hit more dead ends, but the increasing darkness made him feel sure he was getting near the heart of the maze. Then, as he strode down a long, straight path, he saw movement once again, and his beam of wand light hit an extraordinary creature, one which he had only seen in picture form in his monster book of monsters. It was a sphinx. It had the body of an overlarge lion, great clawed paws, and a long yellowish tail ending in a brown tuft. Its head, however, was that of a woman. She turned her long, almond-shaped eyes upon Harry as he approached. He raised his wand, hesitating. She was not crouching as if to spring, but pacing from side to side of the path, blocking his progress. Then she spoke in a deep, hoarse voice.
"You are very near your goal. The quickest way is past me."
"So will you move, please?" said Harry, knowing what the answer was going to be.
"No," she said, continuing to pace. "Not unless you can answer my riddle. Answer on your first guess, I let you pass. Answer wrongly, I attack. Remain silent, I will let you walk away from me unscathed."
Harry's stomach slipped several notches. It was Hermione who was good at this sort of thing, not him. He weighed his chances. If the riddle was too hard, he could keep silent, get away from her unharmed, and try to find an alternative route to the center. "Okay," he said. "Can I hear the riddle?" The Sphinx sat down on her hind legs in the very center of the path and recited.
"First think of the person who lives in disguise, who deals in secrets and tells naught but lies. Next, tell me what's always the last thing to mend, the middle of middle and the end of the end. And finally give me the sound often heard during the search for a hard-to-find word. Now string them together and answer me this: which creature would you be unwilling to kiss?